I think what's going to happen is Bob Iger is going to be pushed in a corner, and he is going to have to make the tough choices that Chapek would have made sooner.
I
Right?
think the problem is they destroyed a very logical strategy. So Disney itself, although had a good mixture of girl and boy content, really concentrated a lot on heroic girls. And the reason for bringing in Marvel before Star Wars was to have boy content.
Right.
That really was the strategy. So they could balance things out. And if they did nothing else but just continue on that path, do the Frozens and the princesses and whatever they wanted to do on Disney, and keep the Marvel teenage boy, content, then they would have been fine. It was like a stupid strategy to try to estrogenize everything.
Well, woke happened is what happened, Paul, because what you're explaining is exactly what Bob Iger was trying to do. He knew they had the market cornered already on girls' entertainment. And he's like, well, we need to get the boys invested now. So that's why his first two goals, and he said this in his book, was to go out and get Star Wars and Marvel right after he fixed Pixar.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And that's exactly why he did it. But going against that grain between Kathleen Kennedy's bullshit and the wokeness, we got what we got. And speaking of getting things, we got a new guest hopping in here, and he's not Cameron as we expected, but he is Canadian. Mr. Script Doctor.
Good afternoon, everybody. To further add on to your point,
and we
Tom,
won't hold the Canadian fact against you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, to further your point there, Tom, it's not that Iger wanted to get the boys market. He did. The problem is that he brought nobody in that knows how to sell stuff to boys. Everybody at Disney only knows how to market to girls. And when they got their hands on Star Wars and Marvel, it's like, well, how do we sell this? Well, we figure we just sell it the same way we sell it to girls, and it didn't work. And if you want to get inside Iger's head, he does have a master class, which is terrible, but he actually opens up that what he tells his family is that he sells merchandise to girls. That's how he introduces himself, essentially. And when you have two of the largest brands in the world, Star Wars and Marvel, and you sell those to girls and not to boys, they no longer become the largest brand. And to piggyback off of what's been going on with the board, there's a lot of different players in the board. There's ones that are part of the politics, ones that are part of the money, and the other ones that just don't really, they just want their cash, their dividends, so to speak. And in this last week, you have the 6th out of 7 Marvel films that, even though they were greenlit by Bob Iger, are under the leadership of Bob Chapek, that, from the perspective of Marvel, bombed. Remember, since Disney has taken over, we have actually even before that, we have a collection of 30 Marvel films, and they're no longer average $1 billion a piece in the box office because 6 of them never crossed that $1 billion mark, which is 1/6 of the entire brand. And that happened in a single year. Well, it's technically 14 months. The reputation side of things here, I would not be surprised if any of the board members that were still on Chapek's side prior to this past weekend, as soon as they saw that Black Panther Wakanda Forever did what it did at the box office, they said, okay, he's out. Because I would not be surprised if there's a tug of war between two other sides. And the third defining party were the ones that are like, listen, I don't care about the politics. I don't care about, Chapek or Iger. Things are going okay. Money is coming in enough, and Marvel brand is strong. And then all of a sudden, this second weekend hits, and it's like, oh, Marvel brand is not strong. Well, you know what? So I'm going with the guys that want Chapek out, because reputation begets money. And under Iger, he can say that for 10 years, Marvel was the strongest brand in the world. And Chapek can't say that because he has had to spend the last 2 years trying to clean up what Bob has done. So this is a reputation. There's a reputational aspect to this with regards to the board's actions. And now Bob is coming in, and he's kind of, I guess, like trying to right the ship. But if anything, he's actually going to hurt himself more, because everything that he has done led up to the last 2 years. And if he's not going to change anything, because why would he? Because that would just basically own that basically make him have to take responsibility for his actions, and you can't do that in Hollywood if there's failure attached to it. So he's going to continue to do what he did prior, and he can't hide from it because through fate, he is luckily enough able to say, well, it's not my fault. Chapek was in charge. Like all the problems that have occurred, he is divorced from because Chapek was brought in, or it was out at that time, soft out, so to speak, because he was probably still talking to every single board member, making claims that,
I wonder how many people from Wakanda Lives Matters and Strange World have been complaining that perhaps Chapek has not greenlit enough marketing money, and he wants them to fail.
Oh, entirely possible. I would also posit that. What was I going to say? I just had it. That Chapek. Oh, sorry. Bob Iger is. He got his start in weather, which means he knows how to follow patterns. And one of the funny parts about weathermen is that even if they predict the weather, they can always say, even when they're wrong, they can always say, "Well, things change. I can only see what the pattern is. I can't see what."
Hey, I only said 80% chance of.
Exactly. and here's the other part too. I would not be surprised if Iger saw this pattern because he was still in charge of Disney during the pandemic start. I would not be surprised he saw this pattern, knew that Chapek was coming in, and was like, you know what? I will not fight this as hard as I want to. I will step aside. I'll let Chapek take the blame, and then Disney will be coming back to beg me to return. I would not be surprised because I'm kicking myself thinking maybe I should have seen that because he did manipulate George Lucas into selling Lucasfilm to him. It would only be if he still wanted to be at the top of Disney. It would only be a matter of time till he got back. But I still think it's a poor decision.
What's funny is that Disney is basically Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalkering itself after Last Jedi. If you think about it. They're basically just like they did with JJ, pulled him back in to quote unquote fix the franchise. They basically pulled the guy in who destroyed it in the first place to fix the fucking company. This is hilarious.
That's rare. The only instance where I think that's happened, although Jack Dorsey was brought back into Twitter. I don't know what his success was. I know that obviously Steve Jobs was the big one, but he was actually, he needed to get kicked out and kind of grow up.
Yeah.
And when he came back, he was on a house on fire, but also there was a almost 10 years worth of bad management that he was able to point to that was absolutely had nothing to do with him. So he was completely free to chop product and cut employees. Iger does not have that. I mean,
No.
it's less than 2 years that Chapek took over in 2020, and he didn't even get to do a full 2 years really. And he's not going to cut anything or very little, because that, as script said, it's an indictment to his personal failure.
No, he's got a very short list of things that Bob Chapek did that he could cut to try and pat himself on the back with. But if the pattern maintains as it has, if Ant-Man and the Wasp does not perform well, if the next few Marvel movies after that, and I guess even The Mandalorian season 3 doesn't perform well, he's going to have a difficult time trying to put that on Chapek's shoulders.